Hello, this is Rob Hirschfeld, and I am hosting today's OpenCrowbar community call. So we have a couple of things we've built into the agenda already, and then we can entertain some other items as we go. But this should be enough to get us started. Oh, and we should look at the backlog. I wasn't in the last meeting or two. Greg, did we do backlog grooming already?
No.
Okay, so we should look at the backlog. Cool. We can do that. So hold on just a second. So, okay. So we have official launch. We have official release. And you said this, so Greg, can you walk through the branching a little bit?
Yeah. So we've cut Broom 4, and we're going to name it OpenCrowbar 2.1. There's some issues with the CentOS upstream repos that once that's fixed, will generate official RPMs for the 2.10 release and create a tag for that at that point. The features around it are some stability stuff, install cleanups, like you're writing packaging to do a more traditional install versus a git pull kind of development install. And we've updated the docs to represent that and give you a way to run it. This also includes the hardware integration for RAID and BIOS, tested on Dell 12 Gen hardware, 12G hardware. I think that's kind of, super micro support at the IPMI layer.
And then we have some previews of Salt and Chef provision integrations.
Yeah. I think they prefer Salt Stack, but
I think you're entirely right.
Let's see. Yeah, and but you already mentioned there's some cleanup around the ISOs and what supported ISOs we will pull in.
Oh yeah, so we added 10.7
support and Ubuntu 14.4.
Actually, a lot of stuff. Cool, that's excellent.
So I think that's the gist of it. Right now, the tree.
Actually, along those lines, there's also some process improvements over the release, which includes automated testing. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Code coverage. Sure, big milestones. Cool. Right. So official development is going to start. So Camshaft development. Oh, then we should hold on.
Yeah, let's talk about before we do the Camshaft stuff. So there's one more tag pending for master, which will be the 2.1 tag once we get all that stuff lined out. From then, if you've looked at the repos recently, you'll notice that there's now a develop branch. It's now been made the default branch in all of the trees, or in all the repos. This is where development of Camshaft will take place. Ideally, work will be done in feature branches, either your own personal ones, or if there's a big enough project, we'll do feature branches at the repo level. And as those features get merged in, they'll merge into develop, and we'll have the normal testing run against them. As we get close to times to cut releases of these trees, we'll create a release branch for it, do some wider integration testing, and generate RPMs at that point, and validate all that stuff. Once the community's happy with that, we'll promote those release branches into master and get rid of the release branch. So as we talk about Camshaft, we'll create a Camshaft, and we may do it for sprints. If we don't think the sprints are sufficient content-wise, then we'll do them every couple of sprints. The idea is that master won't necessarily change until we've got a reasonable amount of content that we're happy with. But development will be representative of Camshaft. Right? And maybe we'll tag development with sprint boundaries or something.
Makes sense. And then if we have to patch a past release, we do it in the release branch, right? First test it and then move it to master.
Yes.
So it makes a lot of sense.
So that's it.
Cool. And then from a semver planning perspective, the idea is it's going to be it's a decision at release time, right? Oh, so actually there's two things. So this is decided at release time.
Yeah. Based upon what we decide for size of content. Camshaft is currently not looking huge, or it's large in some of its value, but it's not necessarily going to be changing core a lot, or shouldn't, I would guess. So it'll probably be a minor release. But if we turn out needing to add some major features, we may choose to rev the major release as well.
Right. Right. Well, that would, if we'd have to change the API or add something. Okay. So just from a expectation, we'd expect it to be 2.2 or beyond.
Yeah.
Conceivably, it could actually be a 2.1 dot. No, I think it'll end up being a 2.2.
I would envision 2.2. To me, it's enough features to be that. What I think, and that leaves us the ability, if we have to fix bugs immediately in the main tree because of a packaging issue or other such, we'd change the master version to 2.1.1 or something to address that.
I keep having a thought, and then I lose it. No, semver patch. Okay. No, so I think that should be pretty clear. I don't expect it to be a major heartburn on things like that at this point. Okay. What about docs? The docs changes, we're going to have to, I guess it's all merges, so wherever the docs need to be fixed, we fix them. But I'm assuming it's easy. We'll have to figure that out because we'll want to keep the docs relatively synchronized.
Right, but yeah.
Right. I think it'll be pretty straightforward. If it's new functions, it goes in on the develop branch. If it's changes to sort of release documentation, wherever that shows up, as long as it's merged into master, it's going to get picked up as we merge.
Well, we'd have to merge back into development at some point. But
are you planning to merge the changes, or are you just planning to promote?
Merge probably, but I don't know if it matters.
Okay. Well, so that you wouldn't lose changes that you had made in master from that perspective.
Right.
Cool. All right. So that's that. That makes a lot of sense. So do we want to take a second from that perspective and pull up backlog? So did that mean that all of the issues that were in the 2x release were done? Oh, so we can actually close the milestones.
I believe they are.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I guess that one can be closed at this point.
I have to sign in. Hold on. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the thing I keep forgetting. Are we doing date driven, or are we going to be we're gonna tend to hold releases if allow date slips? Maybe it's too large a meta question.
I don't know. This last time, though, it kind of got funky around Thanksgiving, and the OpenStack conference. We got off, but I had been doing Broom sprint milestones.
Okay.
Whatever content was completed in the sprint was reflected in that milestone, and then we created a new milestone for the sprint, for the next sprint.
Then these should probably be backlog items. Cool. Wow. All right. So I'm going to want a bigger crowd before we put some of these things in. But
yes,
we should probably throw them into the backlog.
They already are in the backlog.
Oh, they are? Oh,
yeah,
well, I was actually going to attach them to the backlog.
You don't want to view it this way. You want to use waffle.
Oh, I see the problem. Okay.
And so if you're in waffle, then they are in the backlog already, and very little is. And now some aren't in Camshaft yet, but
okay. So we should probably take out backlog milestone. It's been a long time since I've been to community planning. This is awesome. Okay. I'm still trying to get Isaac to work on that. Should be able to. I'm having trouble competing with his girlfriend.
Jet?
No, Isaac.
Okay. I don't know.
All right. Oh, I had a general question. Did you change the RPMs to not automatically kick in start to run the annealer?
You have to run production.sh yourself.
Right, and then my production.sh didn't actually start the.
No, it should have. You had errors.
Okay.
Most likely.
That's frustrating. Okay. Oh, I'm on the wrong computer. That's not gonna work. So I was looking for my install, and I'm like, oh, it's not on this computer. Yeah, I must have. I've been. Okay. Yeah, my test deployment's not working. All right. I'm trying to do that demo restart thing, and it's not. I don't know exactly why it's wrong. It's probably my mistake. It's something I'm doing out of sequence. Okay, back to commute call. So on this board, we don't know what to pull off the backlog because we haven't finished discussing it. So we can talk about some things. Positioning. What is this?
What is what? He wants more logging, which is a good enhancement.
It would be an awesome enhancement. Tricky.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it.
Potentially really tricky. All right. Here it is. All right. So I'm not comfortable pulling anything off the waffle board right now. Perhaps I don't know what sequence we're in, but that might be something to do for next week. Is collect some data. So why don't we talk about some of the potential options? We could talk about development for the week. Is that reasonable?
I suppose. I mean, I guess.
Let me look at the agenda. So we talked about the Broom. We talked about branching strategy. Oh, well, I was going to talk about Packstack. We talked about the backlog a little bit. We can talk about pulling things over, and then Camshaft themes and objectives. We probably need to do Camshaft themes and objectives first. Let me talk about the Packstack stuff briefly. Yay! Actually, you did this more. You did a lot of the lifting on it. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Okay, there's a Packstack bar clamp, or whatever we're calling those things now, that will let you add milestone node roles that will let you create a master kind of user on one of the nodes, from which you can run Packstack against all the other nodes that you create as minions or participants. And the idea is that the SSH keys and such will be made consistent and available, such that the Packstack user that you log in as can actually run Packstack to bring up OpenStack. All that's documented on the link that you just put in there. There's a README talking about where to get the RPM and how to use it. And then from there, it's kind of up to you to learn how to use Packstack and to get it to drive Packstack correctly. But all the pieces should be available to run Packstack at that point.
I would add the caveat is Racken is not supporting it's not exactly that we're not supporting it. We are not supporting it. We're really not investing in extending Packstack. We will discuss how to use the ready environment Crowbar creates. So I say this in a couple different ways, but Racken's not, Racken and the Crowbar team at Racken are really not, we know a lot about OpenStack, but we're really not trying to become an OpenStack company. We are working with OpenStack partners and people who know how to use OpenStack. So, you know, we want the demo to be available so people can try it, but we're not going to be able to help people configure OBS bridges in OpenStack under Packstack. That's something we expect people to build their own expertise for. If you want help, call us. We'll give you help. Okay. Okay. So Rob's gonna make a demo of this. I'm gonna make a demo. You should just type it. But the focus is on the ready state. Okay. And that's what, so for the Broom release, I'm trying to prepare a series of videos like I've traditionally done, but I'm going to break it into small pieces. So the Packstack is just this one little endpoint. I'm going to show how that goes. But we have a whole bunch of other pieces to show off as part of the release. That's just one thing. It's a good thing. Cool. All right. Theme for Camshaft?
Where was that?
No, I know it. I mean, it's basically integration.
Okay.
So the theme for Broom was hardware, getting the hardware stuff going, and sort of the whole way we operate this is we try and have most of the theme pieces done at the beginning of the release cycle, and then we end up building in advanced pieces as we harden. And so Camshaft, we've already done some integrations. We have a couple more to do. But this is things like the Chef Provision, which is we've been starting to demo. It used to be called Chef Metal. Salt Stack integration is another one. And then we're talking about potentially doing Ansible. We're talking about, did I spell it right?
Ansible. It's EL, I think, but I don't know. Actually, no, it's ANSIBLE. Never mind, you're right.
I got it right. Okay.
It's just.
It's from Ender's Game. My understanding. That's what I would assume. Faster than light. It's the faster than light communication.
Yeah. No, I'm familiar with it, but.
Oh, you just don't know if that's the actual reference?
Yeah. I mean, it's fine, but.
And so that, I think we've been talking about doing, well, and then so there's also some discussion about open compute integrations, really actually, this is hardware support, and I've been talking to people who want additional hardware. Open Compute's one. UCS, HP, Super Micro. All pretty reasonable stuff. I think this makes sense based on what we're seeing. Oh, and then the other thing in here that I've been talking about is a interactions with Cobbler. So one of the questions for us is how do we help somebody transition? It's not just Cobbler, but Cobbler's the dominant. So it's how do we help people with that? I think that's something that we just need to keep discussing and pick up some information. I would love to get some people on the call to actually who are Cobbler users or some hands-on experience with other ops work for this. So I don't need the proxy. But I will. So okay. But this is what we had agreed on was the major theme.
Yeah.
Do it,
yeah.
And then, so do we want to talk about the Cobbler piece a little bit or not? Because I think that this actually ties in with integration like this. So one of the things that we've been talking about from the DNS integrations, because one of the things that you have to have is good DNS integration. So DNS integration can be part of that. So this would be turning, making it more extensible. And then we also have provisioner integration. So this would be allowing CB to use other provisioners. Whether that's practical or not, or valuable, is to be determined. And so this would be Cobbler is one. Okay, so Cobbler, mass, which is like Cobbler, Foreman. Why am I blanking? Oni, Razor. Right, with the idea being that Crowbar does a lot more because it's really an orchestration system, and there's there are multiple ways to lay down an OS. That's the main thing of provisioning. So instead of maintaining our own, being able to hook into one or more of other ones. That I think is actually a design discussion meeting on its own. I know from our conversations it's been like that. Cool. Greg, is there something else? I'm sort of talking to an external audience with this review, but
no, I mean those are some of the more, where we're thinking on some stuff.
Yeah. So we need feedback. So future, what I would do is I keep tabbing and it's not actually tabbing. And provisioner. I'm going back up. So from that perspective, it was Kubernetes from a workload. So then the other thing to bring in is additional workloads. I'm not going to do that here. I don't know if that's a community discussion or not. So from that perspective, we have Salt. Ansible would be a likely candidate to do some preliminary work on, since that fits the theme. OpenStack Icehouse upstreams from ready state. That's sort of done. Mike, I haven't seen Mike in ages supporting any of that. We need to decide, Greg, if we want to actually remove. I'm a little off topic, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. Actually, so today, were you part of the discussion that we had with Mike for this?
No.
Let me back up and talk about that, because so one of the things, you know, this from my history, I was a very big proponent of getting the documentation in a textual form in GitHub. I still think it was the right decision, but we've spent a fair bit of coding time actually making it renderable within the UI, which I've begun to think is not particularly helpful. That and Mike Pitaro had found a tool that if we put the documentation in restructured text, it would literally just take the directory tree and build a book. And so the idea was that instead of having, and because of the way the development cycles work, you know, you're going to use GitHub during development, but once we transition to the master branch or the release branch, you know, those are controlled events, and we can actually regen the docs at that point. And so the idea was to not do any code generation of documentation in the product during install, but literally just point you to the book generated from the text in the repos. And that gives you sort of the best of both worlds. You get a book, but it's sourced with the code, so that if things change, you can actually go back to the, you know, you can fix the documentation in a auditable manner. And so I've been ready to remove that code from the product and switch it to the pointer. We just needed, you know, there's a restructured text conversion that has to get done, and then you have to have the build process do the actual create it, and we could add it into. I don't, you know, we'd have to figure out where we want that to go. Does that make sense? Restructured text and Markdown are almost identical.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay. I think in some regards our bigger problem is content, not format.
Well, you're right.
And so, okay.
Yeah. So we definitely need more formalized documentation. I think Mike's thought is that restructured text is friendlier for editors, for people actually doing more serious editing.
That could well be, and so that's fine.
I haven't wanted to put the time into doing that, because I'm happy enough with the Markdown. That's sort of where that stood, and I think it's a reasonable thing at some point to do. If nothing else, we could remove it from the documentation windows, because I think that while it works, it's not particularly useful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the docs are there. The docs are there. There's a nice link to edit them on GitHub and all that stuff. But, wow, it all works. Hot dog. When we switched to the core model, Greg, we didn't need the weird compositional documentation that we'd had before. I don't know how much you remember that hard thing. That was horrible.
Okay.
So, it just hasn't been as much of a factor. So I don't. Without other people here, it's really not appropriate to assign work and figure out where things are going. I think the biggest expectation would be that we'll do some investigation on Ansible.
Yep. I suspect that's what we'll some of the work that we'll be doing.
Okay. And then I don't know if it's worth talking about or not. Let's see. So hold on. Go back to my notes. Okay. Okay. So I keep hoping to do this featurette with the asynchronous, and we can talk about that. I don't know if I have time to do it, but actually I need to do it if I'm to enable Isaac infestation. So the other thing that I was looking to do was to add tickets to the node roles. So async node role action. So in order to do some of the testing for the UI and the AJAX pieces of the UI, we actually need a way for the simulator to drive a node role in over time, not all up front like it does right now. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it's very difficult to test the AJAX updates.
Right.
Yeah, or you have to be booting nodes, and it's sort of slow and cumbersome. So my idea with this was to basically allow node roles to exit the annealer in transition with a ticket for external continuity, for external completion.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Right. So the idea would be if I have a jig that says, or actually node roles action that says, hey, you're not going to do anything here. I created a ticket for you. Then it would. I'm going to have to add a field to node roles to store the ticket. I guess I could store it in the node role data itself, couldn't I? I don't want to do that. I'll add a field for a ticket. And then there'll be some APIs exposed to allow you to see the ticket, and if the ticket completes, to basically say, hey, this node role went ready or errored. Here's the data that goes with that. I think it's a relatively minor change. I was going to build some BDD around it to make sure that it worked. But that should then, that's actually a good, I need I have to add a waffle item for it, don't I? Which I'll do. But so the idea would be that would allow you to then do an external integration that would come back and say, hey, I'm done. Here's, report this ticket completed, report this ticket failed. Oh, the other one that we talked about was sort of the dummy node validation steps. Do we have a ticket for that? Do we have a?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, I'll talk to Scott and see if we can get those officially in the backlog, because I think that's a. Do we want to talk about that for a second, or do you know what I mean by it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So one of the things.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So what my thought here is that I consistently hear people ask for a system that does validation that the physical system that you've installed is set up right, networking, or like actually do a hardware qualification, run some memory tests. So there's two aspects to this. Let me do it like this. So one is this? So it's just just a question: is it the right equipment and wired correctly? So that's one thing. I think that's a different validation, and then there's the stress test, is diagnostics.
Right. Okay. Then I know what you're talking about. That's good to put in. Though we might want to end this so that we can keep follow-on commitments.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that.
Just
so
saying.
I think that this is enough that we can say, hey, these are some items that we're thinking.
Oh yeah, that's more than I know that will get done.
Yeah, and I'm just looking. This is looking to put cards in the backlog more than anything else, because I don't think I'd rather work on the ASY NCH. Okay. Okay. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording, and we will wrap up the meeting. Greg, thank you. I'd love to have bigger community presence. We're going to have to do a better job. Going to have to